Welcome to the VO Ventures podcast with Erica Dawn. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the VO Ventures podcast with Erica Dawn. That would be me. I am Erica Dawn, professional voice actor, narrator, and voice acting coach out of Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm so happy and so thrilled and delighted to be here with you guys today on the very first episode of this new podcast. So, again, this is the VO Ventures podcast with Erica Dawn, where I will be touching on all things voice acting, how to get started in the business, as well as how to actually operate a voiceover business. So I'm going to talk to you guys on this episode mostly about who I am and how I came to be in this position that I am now as a voice acting coach, where I have been in the coaching space for a few years now. So definitely want to give you guys a better understanding of who I am, why I started this podcast, who this podcast is for, and what you can expect from this podcast. So again, welcome everybody to the podcast. I'm so excited that you are here with me listening today. Now, those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can actually see my face here for episode 1. Now, I can't promise that you're going to see me on every episode, but you will hear my voice. So the audio will be available on YouTube. I'm a very busy girl, so when I can, you will actually see me on camera, but not all the time. So I figured I'd just go ahead and give that disclaimer right here, right now. So before we dive too deep into who I am and how I came to be in this space, I do want to give a bit of an overview of how this podcast is going to work, or why I started this podcast to begin with. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what you can expect from each episode a little bit later, but I do want to give you a brief introduction of why I'm here to begin with. Okay, so I've had my YouTube channel for quite some time now, and some of you may know that I actually host voiceover workshops. I've been hosting workshops for years now, and a lot of you are subscribers of the channel because you've been on those workshops. So those workshops will continue. We actually will have one coming up very soon, and I'm going to give you the dates on those and how you can get signed up. Those workshops are free, and I encourage everyone who is interested in breaking into the voice acting field to join those workshops. We have a lot of fun. Workshops is where I got started with all of this, and from those workshops, I've gained many coaching clients and students of my voice acting academy, as I like to put it, that is online, which hosts 4 online courses that are all dedicated to voice acting and the voice acting business. I tell my students all the time that I am forever their coach, no matter how far they fly or how well they fly. Once they've been working with me, I'm going to always be there for them, and we all very much stay connected. And this has been a request of them for quite some time that I start a podcast. So here I am with a podcast, one of 2 podcasts that I decided to create this year here in 2024. The other is an audio drama podcast, which you guys can check that out coming very soon. So if you're subscribed to this channel, if you subscribe to the podcast, you will definitely have access to that as well. And later I'm going to tell you more about how that podcast came to be and how I am turning that into opportunity for a lot of my voice acting students. So that'll come later, but just definitely wanted to tell you how I got into it. They've been asking for years now for me to start a podcast, and for the longest, I really didn't know much about the podcast world. I felt like it was just another added project to my many projects that I already am committed to doing right now. And just didn't feel like I had the time, but I thought long and hard about it towards the end of the last quarter of 2023 on what I wanted to do for 2024. And I decided that I needed to go ahead and start this podcast and start the other podcast. So that is why I am here now. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about more who I am and how I got into the voice acting business, as well as how I got my start with coaching. So I don't want to spend too much time because, like I said, those of you who have been on my workshops and things like that, you've already heard this story many times, but I may have some new listeners here who have never heard that part of my life. So I definitely want to give a brief overview of all of that. So again, I'm Erica Dawn. I am originally from Akron, Ohio, born and raised. I moved to Atlanta 12 years ago now. So January of this year marked 12 years of me being in Atlanta, Georgia. The reason for my move is because I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. I've been a dancer, choreographer. I've been singing all my life. I've been writing for a very long time. Writing is true passion of mine. So I definitely wanted to come to Atlanta to break into the film and television industry, as well as the music business and all of that good stuff. Same reason why most people move to Atlanta. Prior to moving here, I definitely had a desire to become a voice actor and an audiobook narrator. Again, had no idea how to break into the business, didn't know what the proper ways to get into the business were. I had absolutely no idea, but I knew that it was something that I definitely wanted to do. So, with that, after I moved to Atlanta, I definitely jumped into some coaching and training because I needed to find out what the best practices were to get into the business. And honestly, that was the best decision that I could have made. And I feel like that is required of everyone breaking into this business is to get a coach. Through that, I gained so many opportunities. I landed an agent. I recorded a professional demo with my coach. She even was the one who referred me to the audiobook studio that I currently work at and have been working at for years now. So coaching and training is definitely an absolute must in this business. And again, on a future episode, which is episode number 2, we're going to talk about, do you need a coach? And I've actually included both episodes, episode 1 and 2 of this podcast, available to you in the first week, because yeah, you guys want to hear who I am and why you should listen to me in the first place, but I know that you really want to get to the information about how you can break into this business. So we're going to jump right into it right here, right now. So again, you can check out episode number 2 right after you watch episode number 1. But going forward, just know that the podcast will be available on a weekly basis. So going forward, every week you will get a new episode that will drop to YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Podcastle. So that is where the podcast will be distributed on all of those platforms. So if you want to watch multiple times, maybe give me a view on YouTube and then jump over to Google Podcasts, jump over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, so that you can help the algorithms there as well. So that is that. So a small little plug about the podcast there. So that is how I got into the business. So it has been, now I've been in Atlanta for 12 years. So I have been working in voice acting for 10 years now. So after I moved here, I was here for about a year before I jumped into coaching. And then it took about a year, year and a half, almost 2 years before I actually started getting paying gigs through voice acting. And I've been working ever since. So how I got into coaching, let's talk about that. So I told you guys that I am a dancer, a choreographer. I also am a working voice actor. When the pandemic hit, there was literally no work for me outside of my home. So I developed an online course that was teaching little kids dance, which is what I was doing prior to everything being shut down. I created an online course, and through creating that online course, I decided, well, I can create an online course that also teaches voice acting because that is what I do currently now. That class was just originally on Zoom. I had 6 students that were enrolled in that class, just teaching them how to get started as well. Had no idea that I would even get anyone enrolled, but I absolutely did. I love creating online courses, which is a whole nother side to what I do. I'm an instructional designer, and I'll get into all that at another time too, maybe with another podcast, but dedicated to those who want to get into instructional design, but I digress. So through that class, I gained some coaching clients, and they are still with me to this day. Every last one of those students who started with me back in 2020 are still with me today here in 2024, 4 years later. And they're flying and they are doing their thing. And I am so proud and just love it. So again, with seeing how successful the first class went and seeing how receptive the clients were to my coaching and my tips, and also seeing results, because I'm a results driven type of person. I'm not the type of person that's just going to take money from people just to take it or give bad advice. No, I definitely wanted to make sure that I was giving sound advice to my coaching clients and making sure that they were getting the results that I was hoping that they would get from my coaching. And that was actually happening. So I decided to grow my business by creating online courses for voice acting. From the first online course, which was Intro to Voiceover, I created 3 additional online courses, which go into tech, which is all about recording and editing, and then voiceover marketing, which is extremely important in this business if you are going to be freelancing for sure. And then also an audiobook narration course on anyone who wants to break into audiobooks. So I have grown my business over the past 4 years tremendously. And like I said, I still have all of my clients that I started with from the very beginning. We have class meetings all the time. We have a Facebook group that is just dedicated to my students. And we just have a really good time. And like I said, they have been asking that I start this podcast, not just from a standpoint of voice acting, but also the business side of things, because I am a business owner. And in order to be lucrative or to be successful in voice acting, you have to treat it as a business, especially if you don't have agency representation. So, again, a topic that we will touch on later on in the podcast. But that is enough about me, who I am, how I got started. You can hear a little bit more about those things if you come on to any of my workshops, which again, I will be telling you more about at the end of this episode. But that is that. So, let's talk about who this podcast is for. So, same as my workshops, this podcast is for anyone who is interested in breaking into voice acting. Okay. So whether that's commercial VO, if you want to be an audiobook narrator, if you want to narrate for e-learning, if you want to be a gaming voice actor, whatever it may be, whatever genre it may be that you want to break into, this podcast is for you. Now, I'm going to tell you also, same way I've told my clients, same way that I tell anyone that comes on my workshops, I keep it real. So if the real is not what you are prepared to hear, this podcast is not for you. Okay. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to tell you things that you just want to hear. I'm not going to promise you that you're going to get rich overnight and things like that, because that is absolutely not the truth. And that is not how this all works. So if you're expecting that, if you're hoping for that, this podcast may not be for you. But if you are really, really passionate about this business and you're really serious about wanting to get into this business, I'm big on passion, okay? And I'm big on being serious about my time as well as yours. So there's no point of sitting here for 20 minutes listening to me give you advice about something that you're not really truly passionate about, okay? So this business takes a lot of patience. So I need you to be patient with going through the episodes and going through the tips. You can always email me and ask me questions. I'm always open to answering questions. Um, and I'm a coach as well. So if you need coaching and training and you're interested in getting coaching and training, I'm available to that as well. But this podcast is for anyone who is serious about breaking into voice acting, who's serious about audiobook narration, who has the patience to do what is necessary to become successful or to get a break in the business and get your first paying gigs and things like that. This is for you if you're willing to invest in your career. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about time as well. So, all of those things encompass a great start to voice acting. And I'm going to give you as many tips as I can about how you can break into that. Okay. So, podcast is for you if you are aligned with all of the things that I just said. So, with that being said, I am going to get my phone here. I have a list of all of the episode topics that we will be touching on. I'm going to break them into seasons because we are going to have seasons of the podcast. So I'm not going to give you all of the whole list, but I am going to give you quite a bit of the future episodes that you can expect. Okay. So each season is going to be 6 episodes long. So you're getting the first 2 episodes now. And then there will be 4 more episodes for season 1. So let me pull those up and tell you what those subjects are going to be. All right. So, episode 2, like I said, we're going to talk about do you need a coach? That is going to be the title of that episode. We're going to go into all of the details about that, my opinion about that, and facts about that. We're going to talk about how much does all of this cost, right? So there is a cost behind breaking into any business or any industry where you're trying to start your own business. You have to invest. You need capital to start, right? So we're going to talk about how much everything costs, from getting started to your equipment, to your coaching and training, to your advertising, all of that. We're going to go into all of that. Can you record your own demo? big question that I get all the time. And by the way, I'm basing all of these topics off of questions that I have received from people out there who are interested in voice acting. Okay. Can you record your own demo? We're going to talk about that. Where are the gigs? Where's the money? How do you find those gigs, right? Definitely something I know you want to know. We're going to talk about that. Do you need agency representation? We will dive into that, talk about whether or not it is necessary to have an agent, required to have an agent. What is the difference between being a freelancer and having an agent? Can you freelance and have an agent at the same time? We'll talk about all of those things. Should you pay to play? Everyone out there who is currently working in voice acting are familiar with pay to play sites and how you can set up profiles and things like that to audition for things that are out there. We'll talk about all those, in my opinion, about pay to play. And that will be the first 6 episodes. Okay. So I'm not going to wait a long time before you get the second season of the podcast. It might be like a few weeks at the most before you get season 2. But those are the first 6 episodes that will be coming out. So if you want to know about any of those things, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to the podcast on the other distribution channels, because I will be deep diving into all of that information. Okay. And there's so much more to come later on that we're going to talk about. I'll give you a little taste of what you can expect later. But we're going to talk more about the business mindset of it all. Okay. And how to actually run and operate a successful voice acting business. Our audiobooks for you. Okay. Audiobooks is a big one. And we're going to talk about that as well. Later on, we're also going to talk about AI technology and how to make it work for you. All right. So that's going to come in season 2. But season 1, those are the episodes that you're going to get. I'm super excited again to be here with you guys doing this. I'm new to this podcast thing, so bear with me, be patient with me along the way. Yeah, all those things. We're going to be hearing some bonus episodes also, where I'm going to be dropping some spotlight interviews from some of my current coaching clients and students that you'll be able to hear about how their journey has been going so far, as well as how their experience was with working with me. I will be dropping those along the way as well. And you're also going to hear some ads that are going to be coming from my business, but will be voiced by some of the voice talent that are part of Erica Dawn Voices. So all of those things are super exciting. I'm super excited for my voice acting students to be able to collaborate with me through this process. And yeah, so just bear with me, and it's going to be a fun time, a fun ride. Workshops are still going to happen. Okay. So let me give you the date of our next workshop. Let me look at the calendar because it's coming up very soon. You can go on Eventbrite and you can find the link to sign up and register. Again, it is free to join a 2-hour workshop, very interactive, where you can come on and actually read scripts live on StreamYard, and I give feedback on your performance. Super fun time that we have. So that workshop is actually going to be taking place on Thursday, February 29th. All right, from 7 to 9 p.m. You can catch us right here on this YouTube channel. If you're not watching on YouTube, you can just find Erica Dawn Voices on YouTube and subscribe. But go to eventbrite.com. The link will be in the show notes, so you can go ahead and get registered for that. And I hope to see you on the workshop. I hope that you are subscribed to this podcast and subscribe to this channel so that you can stay up to date with all of the new things that we have coming up. And also, definitely be sure to look out for the audio drama podcast, which is called Adult Bedtime Stories, an audio drama podcast presented by Erica Dawn Voices. The first season will be dropping very soon, with the first episodic series titled Harmony and Heartbreak. So, very excited. I collaborated with my sister on this project. She had helped me write the story. So we are co-writers on this series, and we will have another episodic series that will drop right after this one wraps. So definitely take advantage of that and listen. And you're going to hear so many different voices coming in future episodes and future series as well. So we're going to have a fun year, guys. So welcome. Stay with us, join us, and I will see you guys on episode 2. Thanks. Bye.